Welcome to Carr Mill Dam, home of the Lancashire Powerboat Racing Club and the setting for round 2 of the Powerboat GP British Championships. In the opening round at Lowestoft on the Alton Broad Water, former world champion Colin Jelf dominated the headlining Formula 2 class, taking pole position and winning all 3 heats.
No one has an answer for this man, Colin Jelf, 3 out of 3.
While Formula 4 champion Ben Morse added another victory to his name, but only after a tense battle with Mike Pillow.
Well, look at this, just sneaking up through on the inside is Ben Morse, 97.
In GT30, things were even closer, with Charlotte Newton coming out on top, but only after a controversial clash with Jess Stoneman.
And it's very tight round there in contact.
When 4 times British champion Ben Jelf clobbered a turnboy in Heat 1 and got disqualified, the door was left open for Thomas Mantrip to lead the juniors home.
But it's Thomas Mantrip then who wins round 1.
While Thomas Mantrip was the boy on the top step of the Lowestoft podium for the GT15 junior class, the biggest smile was worn by 15-year-old Jess Beaumont, who battled from a lowly grid position to a fine 2nd place.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best competitive races.
But it doesn't mean you need to qualify, because if you qualified better, you could have won it.
I know. Don't know, it's difficult because qualifying, you want the boat to be the fastest on one lap, but then on the races you need it consistently fast. So changes have to be made throughout the whole weekend.
So who does all the tuning for you? Who runs the boat for you?
My dad, and then my teammate's dad, so Andy as well.
So that's dads. It's father and daughter having fun at weekends.
Yeah.
Get a bit arguments if things go a bit wrong, you know?
Can do. It's very stressful because everyone wants to win, so then when you don't, it's tempers do fly.
So going into qualified this afternoon, best efforts, then pole position?
And that's the aim.
And a good start?
Yeah, that's the most important thing for the races now.
OK, well, best of luck.
Thank you.
But all hope of a good grid position disappeared when mechanical gremlins set in and left her slowest of all.
I think it's just something to do with the carburetor, and maybe it's got something in it. And the gears aren't working anymore, so I can't get into neutral. So I don't know.
Looks like Dad's got a bit of work to do then.
He does.
Pole position went to defending champion Ben Jelf, who had problems of his own.
Yeah, the gaskets are splitting the engine, they're causing oil leak everywhere. Then we just got it sorted out in the end.
With the ever-improving Elliott Fleet surprised to be 2nd. 2nd fastest?
I thought I was 3rd.
No. Be impressed.
Yeah.
You're getting quicker and quicker this year now, so can you sort out Ben Jelf?
I will.
While championship leader Thomas Mantrip, despite being 3rd fastest, had so many dramas, he didn't even want to talk about them. He's walking on. 3 heats with points awarded at the end of each race will decide the winner. So we now join our race commentator Jason Mantrip to see how the first 2 heats turned out.
13 boats was to line up for the first of 2 heats of the day, the 6-lap race then, and Ben Jelf was to get an awesome start away from the rest of the grid. They charge up towards the first turn, but it was Jonathan Brewer who was to struggle to get away from that start grid. Jelf was first round the turn as the rest of the pack followed, but an incident was to happen next between Harvey Smith and Charlotte Newton. Both of those boats having a problem then with each other, and we look at the replay, and I think really Charlotte Newton getting into a bit of a spin and collecting Harvey Smith along the way. Charlotte Newton then was to retire from the race. In the meantime, a good scrap was to happen in the 5th position spot. The first 4 places were done and dusted, but a scrap between Jonathan Brewer and Jess Beaumont really was to set the scene for the rest of the racing for the GT15s. And Thomas Mantrip was to have his own moment in starting from 3rd on the grid, trying too hard to try and catch up with Ben Jelf. But in the meantime, still the scrap was to happen between Jonathan Brewer and Jess Beaumont, and Brewer then going for an inside line this time around with a back marker of Jack Pickles, but Brewer has his own moment and collects Jess Beaumont along the way in a bit of a spin, and we see here in the replay where Brewer really spins and digs in and then becomes the launch pad for Jess Beaumont to take off. So it was Ben Jelf then who was to take the first victory of the day. So it was on to Heat 2 with Ben Jelf once again starting in the pole position. But a bad start really from Elliot Fleet, who was second on the grid and actually gets away very badly. So the rest of the field was to charge up towards the first turn with the clear lead from Ben Jelf, way out in front, a good 3 or 4 boat lengths ahead of the rest of the pack. They all charge into that first turn where we see the problem before in the first heat, but everyone seeming to manage it all successfully this time around. George Elmore and Lucy Brewer having their own battle, but George Elmore being disqualified for weaving around. Ben Jelf was comfortably in the lead until that moment where he went through the middle of 2 turnboys, and that means that he gets 1 lap penalty, and almost a penalty for Elliot Fleet, but he did actually manage to round the turnboys. But it was Thomas Mantrip who was to take the second heat. So a good result for him in Heat 2 as we look then at the positions on the results board, with the win then for Thomas Mantrip, with Elliot Fleet in second and Jess Beaumont third after 2 heats. Bexley Nunn is 9th after his first national outing.
A quick hook and a boy again. What happened this time?
Just trying too hard, just always make mistakes.
Is it because you're tight, that's what makes you quick, and therefore you die by your own sword?
So everyone has their own driving style. My style is to just keep it in tight.
Thomas, are you going to talk to me now?
Yeah.
You weren't very happy after qualifying, were you?
Well, we weren't really looking for the result we looked for, and we'd had some good testing at Alton Broad, but just didn't get the result we were looking for.
But the heat's a bit happier now, especially as you inherited a nice little win in that second heat.
Yeah, that was good. Unfortunately, Ben hooked on the turnboy, so that allowed me to win that second heat, so I'll be on pole position for the next heat and I should be able to win.
Elliot, a great run in the first heat, kept your position second, but what was that start all about in the next heat?
The engine, it just wouldn't start, I didn't warm it up enough.
Is this what you have to do then? Is that why they had a lot of revving? Because the engines have to be turned off before the start, but you can warm them up last minute.
When they're warmed up, they'll start quicker, so you get a better start.
One of the closest battles in Lowestoft was the final heat of the Formula 4 Catamarans, with reigning champion Ben Morse fighting all the way to the finish with veteran Mike Pillow. And Mike, you beat the little boy then.
I did beat the little whippersnapper for a change, yeah.
But it's going to be a big year battling with Ben by the looks of it.
At the moment, it's me and Ben who've had the boats a bit longer than everybody else, just that bit quicker. So we've had more time for setup and propellers and everything that goes into it.
I say veteran, but of course you're new to catamarans. When did you start racing now?
I started racing in 1980.
Yeah.
And I stopped for 18 years.
And that was just in the monohulls?
I raced in the monohulls in the 1980s,
yeah.
Quite successfully.
Yeah.
And I stopped for 18 years and restarted in 2007 back in monohulls. And I went into the catamaran last year because of the bad back.
Anyway, you won the final heat in Lowestoft, but not the day.
Not the day.
You like this track here at Carr Mill Dam?
Well, this is me home club.
No excuse then.
No excuse. I do like the circuit. It's more technically challenging than straight up, straight down of Lowestoft.
Okay.
So, and there is always the added thing of the right-hander where if you go really wrong, you take the bottom of the boat off.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on pole position then.
Well, I hope so.
After a ding-dong qualifying session, it was the youngster Ben who claimed pole, but only just. You were on pole, and then you weren't on pole, and then you were on pole, and then you weren't on pole, and you're on pole!
Superb.
By a quarter of a second.
That's a good start to the weekend then.
That's tight, isn't
That's
it?
what we want to. Yeah, it is tight.
Do you like this course? Bit of a right-hand turn on it?
Yeah, obviously it's my home circuit, so we spend quite a bit of time here. But yeah, I like it. Last weekend was the first time I've been out on this year, so still getting back into it, but I'm sure we'll get there.
So it was Mike Pillow who would have all the work to do. You got beaten to pole. But by a quarter of a second, you were on pole and it was just so tight. You two are so close. This is going to be the story of the whole year.
Yeah, it's going to be the story of the whole year.
How can you find a quarter of a second?
Well, I can't. I'm going to do another setup change for the race. Race setup's difficult to practice, so it's as simple as that.
The ever-improving Rob Veers claimed third fastest time. Rob?
Yeah?
Is this what, when you qualified third place and you have to be your own mechanic?
Well, I didn't know that. So it's great news, that is, yeah. Makes me happier to do this now. I don't mind doing it. If I was last, I wouldn't want to do it.
6 F4S's was to line up for heat number 1 of a very wet weekend at Carr Mill Dam. But it was Mike Pillow and Ben Morse to pull away, with Natalie Craddock left on the start grid with some kind of electrical problems. But Ben Morse was the first boat round the turn, with Mike Pillow chasing very hard just behind. The story from Alton Broad was to continue then at Carr Mill in Heat 1, with Pillow chasing Morse. The qualification time suggested that these two were always going to be close together in the race itself. But Morse taking a totally different line to Mike Pillow, just getting that extra fraction of a second to put him out into a clear lead out in front. But Mike Pillow exits the Archer's turn a little bit too slowly that time around, and that's put him even further back. Morse continues to lead, but a good drive and a solid drive was to happen from Rob Veers, who found himself ahead this weekend of Matt Palfreyman, who was looking pretty strong himself all weekend. But Ben Morse had done enough in heat number 1 to secure the victory. We move on to heat 2, and Ben Morse and Mick Pillow, as expected, were the first two boats to leap away from the start grid. Matt Palfreyman with not quite so good a start as the others, but he is in an older and heavier boat. But Ben Morse showing that all the skills of being in pole position need to pay off this time around in the all-important Heat 2. Palfreyman does gain some advantage by being on the inside, but look how close this gets as Rob Veers shuts the door on him on the third turn. Ben Morse continues to lead over Mike Pillow as they streak away into the distance, leaving a good battle just behind. Natalie Craddock, the only female driver in the F4S, showing that she has all the skills necessary of what it takes to become an F4S driver. And at the moment, she's holding off very experienced driver of Sam Whittle. But no, she has a moment, and Sam Whittle has an even bigger moment as his boat submarines. We look now at the replay, and you can see there that Sam Whittle's boat actually just completely nosedives, as Ben Morse then takes the victory and wins 2 out of 2. Which is a maximum then of 800 points for him, with Mike Pillow on 720 points and Rob Veers third with 648 points.
Ben, 2 starts, 2 wins. Looks like you sorted the old boy out.
Yeah, it seems to be going well. I'm impressed with how the boat's handling. Obviously, still got 1 to go. Got to finish to win, so see what happens.
Sam, a steady first heat, and then you got embroiled in a great battle in that second heat, and then you almost went for a swim. What happened there?
I was chasing Natalie. It was a good race. Going for the inside in one of the corners. I saw her hooked, but I was still a bit trimmed too much in for the inside. So I went on the outside, I gripped her dirty water, and I went for a swimming lesson near enough. Submarine the boat and got soaked, so luckily stayed the right way up.
Any damage done?
No, it seems okay at the moment. Going on a final check, but looks okay for the next last final heat.
Matt, the main reason you're here is to race in the Formula 2 class, but you're out having a bit of fun in that Formula 4. The old boat, 30 kilograms overweight, but you're having fun in it.
That's it. That's where I started. That was where I all started in the catamaran class. So it's just good fun to race back with the people who are learning now.
So join us after the break, where you can catch Matt Palfreyman and the rest of the F2 action, and also the GT30 class.
Welcome back to Powerboat GB. The lowest off round for the GT30s turned out to be a fierce battle of girl power, with Jess Stoneman on pole position, but the race, Jess, not quite going to plan, did it really?
Oh no, it was terrible. I had a really bad start, and then for the last heat I was second on the grid. Me and Charlotte were head to head on the top 10, but she was still leading. But when it came to the second lap, she took her corner tight but came out wide of the turn.
But what happened? She hit the back of your boat and then you broke down.
What happened was the nose of her boat actually hit the fuel filter.
Oh, that back there, yeah.
And it starved the fuel. So when it come to me taking my foot off and putting it back on again, I didn't actually have any power in my boat. I couldn't do anything, just sitting there paddling away.
Oh. So now, round 2, a clean sheet, and obviously that pole position is very important for all these races.
It's very important for me to get pole position because obviously you get an extra point, and then at the end of the season it all comes down to points. When you're in the water you don't have no friends or family, so...
Well, best of luck. Let's hope you have a better weekend this weekend.
Thanks.
But that all-important point for pole position didn't go to Jess.
Picked for pole position by your arch rival.
Oh, no, seriously?
Yeah.
Am I second?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, Charlotte was the one with all the smiles.
Is it me?
Oh!
Is that...
By like a nothing of a second, so this battle's getting tighter and tighter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tight around that turn, but I have
You've got the
advantage.
line.
Yeah, I have advantage.
And that really is a big difference in the powerboat racing, is this pole position and getting that first turn.
Yeah, because then it gives you the line to take, because you can decide where they go.
Until her boat was found to be just 1 kilogram underweight, she went to the back of the grid, and that point went back to Jess. Right behind the girls in 3rd was Ben Jelf.
Well, it's a new boat this year, just testing it out still. Really used to it.
The GT30 action was about to start, but it was -1 driver, Charlotte Newton, who initially had qualified well, but disqualification for being underweight, and then disaster in the GT15 race where she got run over was to see her be a non-entrant in the first heat. Jess Stoneman gets a good start over Ben Jelf, who is laying in that 2nd position as they head up towards the first turn. But it was Jess Stoneman who got the initial turn right, with Ben Jelf, who was to only follow in her wake. We look back then from Jess Stoneman at the other 3 drivers in the race, including Abby Brewer and Will Wood. Ben Jelf was pushing hard, in fact almost too hard, when his boat almost took off. But he got it under control and was to pursue his charge for the lead. Jess Stoneman, though, was having none of it and was to take the first win. In Heat 2, we saw the return of Charlotte Newton, who had fully recovered from her earlier incident. But the initial start then was once again a battle up to the first turn between these two, Jess Stoneman in pole position and Ben Jelf 2nd on the grid. They arrive up towards the first turn, but Charlotte Newton had come from the back of the grid and already made it through and up to 3rd. Jess Stoneman continued to lead after the first lap, being chased and pursued by Ben Jelf, who had to really be more conscientious of who was behind him. Charlotte Newton always up for the chase, and in fact the winner of the first round at Alton Broad was hungry to get back in action in the GT30 race here. And she actually hooks up a very good turn at the Archer's turn. This was to put her in good line for the next turn down at the fairground turn, and puts her on the inside of Ben Jelf, which was to see her go through into that 2nd position. And Ben Jelf will be kicking his heels, but her 2nd position was actually short-lived as she hooks once again at the turn. She looks around, it's all clear this time, and no one runs over her. She bangs the wheel in anger as Jess Stoneman punches the air with exuberance as she wins heat number 2. So Jess Stoneman makes it 2 out of 2 with a maximum of 800 points, with Ben Jelf 2nd, 720 points, and Abby Brewer 3rd with 586 points.
2 wins, easy peasy.
Easy peasy, but I'm still going to put up a fight in the last heat just to make sure I've got that first position. I've just got to keep calm all the time and just try not to put as much pressure on myself like Charlotte did at Alton Broad.
Qualified for the GT30s, we saw you all happy and on pole position, and then, what was it, 1 kilogram underweight?
Yeah. But I'm not happy about the scales actually, but that is a different matter.
Yeah, but we got more trouble now.
No.
And then you go out in a junior race and end up with a boat on your head. What happened exactly there?
Well, I was just going round the turn and someone slowed down in front of me, so I took, because I didn't want to hit them, I slowed down, and then someone came across me and...
It's a bit of a bag on. Did you feel a bit of a headache? Did you feel a bit funny after that?
Yeah, and I had to come in because it was just getting worse, the pain.
So you missed your first GT30, it came out in the second from the back of the grid, got up to second and then hooked it again. What was that all about?
I was trying to push too hard to get closer to Jess, but I obviously went too tight on the turn and just hooked it.
Wherever you go in the powerboat racing world, it won't be long before someone talks propellers. With these 4 tiny, shiny blades responsible for transmitting 200 horsepower into the water. And after the lowest off race, Colin Jelf was quick to thank the suppliers of his latest prop for a bit of extra speed. So the question is, has the man who pushed him hardest, Paul Balfour, been to the prop shop to try and find some more speed? Paul, have you been shopping?
A little bit. I might have made a little purchase.
Well, you actually had a new prop yourself, didn't you, lowest off, that worked well, but you had the engine problems.
Yes, I've got a new prop which I bought and I hope it suits this course, which I did try at Lowestoft and it worked very well in Heat 2 at Lowestoft, so hoping it should perform again today.
But anyway, forgetting props at the moment, we're at your home track now, Carr Mill Dam, so the advantage swinging your way. Tell us a bit about this course, because it's one of the trickiest on the calendar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good course for drivers, and quite tricky with having a right-hand turn in it.
With the rock on it. So the first corner, the left-hander, is that almost flat after you come past the pit sort of racing lap?
Flat out, just driving on the trim buttons to keep the boat stable and get it to turn.
And up to the hairpin.
Flat out to the hairpin, and then depending on water conditions, sometimes you can take it flat out, sometimes you do need to throttle off.
Flat out, how many G are you pulling round there?
Around about 6 Gs on a hairpin turn.
And qualifying vital?
Qualifying is very, very vital here, yeah. It's such a short run to the first turn, very important.
Good. And after qualifying is when you clean your boat. That's your tradition.
That's it. Never clean it before qualifying.
A little bit dirty. The boat just panned down. This is Has It Finished in Lowestoft. This is the Balfour good luck idea. Keep it dirty. It goes faster. And for once, Paul's good luck routine paid off as he grabbed pole position for his home race. Not washing the boat worked.
Did it work?
Pole position.
Is that official?
Yep.
All right, brilliant. Yeah, a couple of scary laps there trying to get that one.
How's the wind today? Is it awkward, the wind?
Yeah, it's the opposite way to what it normally is on this course. It normally comes in from the fairground end. It's a little bit different.
Now you can go and clean the boat.
I can wash it now.
So Colin Jelf was left to wonder where he could find a bit of extra speed.
We were struggling a little bit in practice there. Hasn't quite got the performance that we had in Alton Broad. And I could see Paul was possibly just gaining on me on the course. So yeah, we're going to have to work a bit harder and try to win this one. He's obviously been working away in between.
While Steve Holtz was happy to have found a bit more of last year's pace to qualify third. What's going better? Third place on the grid.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt a lot different.
Have you changed much after your disappointing pace at Lowestoft?
Yes, we have. We've changed things in terms of weight. We'll put it in different places, and it just seems to be back to where it was before. Right. The handling was really good.
So with Paul Balfour in the pole position with the mighty Colin Jelf next to him, it was Alan Marshall who was to be the first away, but he went when the red lights went on and not off. And that was not good news for him. The rest of the boats then were to leave the start grid, with Paul Balfour then starting in that all-important pole position. The boats then was to charge up towards the first turn with 3 of them side by side, and Matt Palfreyman taking the chance to try and dive through on the inside. Balfour was to lead the race in the early stages with a hard-pushing Colin Jelf in second position. Jelf trying to attack on the outside, but Steve Holt is there also in the mix, but this time he's not quite quick enough. Alan Marshall, he's really the bad boy of the class here today with that early start. He is just ahead though of these two. Colin Jelf still pushing hard on Paul Balfour, but a retirement was to happen for Matt Palfreyman and failure for him to complete the race. Mark Williams was to push hard and he was up into third, but it was Paul Balfour who was to win heat number 1. On to heat 2 as the boats once again leapt away from the start grid and Balfour and Jelf battle was still to continue. And once again they charge up towards the first turn with Matt Polframan, who was also back in the mix of things after retirement from heat number 1. Jelf and Balfour still continued to battle it out, but Balfour knows this way around this course. It's his home circuit. Mark Williams maintaining his 3rd position throughout this race. Matt Polframan with a brave manoeuvre on the inside of Steve Holt sees him move up into 4th position. A good manoeuvre and brave considering these two had issues last year. Mark Williams holds off Polframan towards the end of the race as Jelf still continues in his quest to hunt down Paul Balfour. But Balfour has the race pretty much under control as he leads from start to finish and makes it 2 in a row for him. So Paul Balfour heads to the top of the leaderboard with a maximum of 800 points, with Colin Jelf second with 720 points and Mark Williams third, 648 points.
Well, Paul, so far so good. That's all gone to plan rather well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's worked out okay so far for the first two heats.
But did you get a bit surprised though when old Uncle Alan decided to go early? How does that affect you in the grid?
It affected a couple of us really. With the smoke left behind his boat, it made it difficult to see the red lights go off. So yeah, it gives you something else to think about.
Alan, what was all that about? You seemed to go slightly before the other boats.
I did, Tiff, but the problem is you stand around all day waiting for the go, and then when they call you to do your heat, you're expected to explode in a split second. And the problem that I've got was I just saw the lights and that was it. I went.
Colin, that matte black boat ahead of you must be getting a bit annoying by now after 2 heats of following him.
Definitely. I mean, Paul's getting the start, and that race he was actually pulling away from me. He's obviously doing something a lot better than me around here.
So the first 2 heats have been run. Make sure just after the break when the Powerboat GP finals begin. Welcome back to Carr Mill Dam for the first of our Powerboat GP finals. The juniors lined up on the start, so we rejoin our race commentator, Jason Mantrip.
The all-important 3rd and final heat then, and Thomas Mantrip starts it in pole position, but it's Elliot Fleet who also gets a good start away second on the grid there as Ben Jelf right out of sync really, in my opinion. He's right in the middle of the pack there, not where he would normally be expected to be placed at the start of a race. He's normally at the top end of the grid, but he's got a lot of hard work to do, I think, in this final race of the GT15s this weekend. And look at that shot. That's almost like formation driving, but I can assure you it's not. It's hard competitive action from these youngsters. As we look at Ben Jelf now progressing through the field, he's got number 6 Lucy Brewer just ahead of him, but you can see there in the picture that Jelf way down the pack still. So a lot of work for him still to do. As Jess Beaumont, we ride on board with her. She's having a good look around. It's not to have a look at the scenery, it's to find out exactly where Elliot Fleet is. Well, the answer is good news for her, because he is still behind her at the moment. So Thomas Mantrip is the leader with 2nd position Jess Beaumont, and 3rd position is boat number 11 Elliot Fleet, and everybody else is charging up there. Chloe Jones incidentally got a bad start. She was almost left on the start grid at the very early stages of the race, but it is Jess who currently is in that 2nd position. Jess Beaumont just ahead of Elliot Fleet as they charge up there. Oh, look at this. This is Ben Jelf now in boat number 4 attacking Elliot Fleet. And this is going to pay off if he keeps the inside lane. And Elliot Fleet will be pretty much done and dusted by the end of this turn, I think. As you can see the clear lead that Thomas Mantrip has. It's pretty awesome stuff. He's way out there in front as Ben Jelf tries the manoeuvre. Elliot Fleet knows that he's got to leave some space for Ben, but it's too much space, and Ben Jelf does go through and gets into 3rd position. And now Ben Jelf feels hungry for 2nd position now, because Jess Beaumont is just ahead then in that 2nd spot. And you can see Ben Jelf, he's got to be careful not to get entangled, and you can see him thinking, he thinks, right, I want to be now on the inside. Now he changes his mind right at the last minute. Jess looks across just to make sure there's no contact, but they now look at each other as they head into the left-hander, but Jelf just manages to have just a little bit of a nose in front then, but has the longer way around to go around the outside. That didn't work for Ben Jelf that time around. It was never going to work. The longer way round, of course, is on the outside. As we now look further down, this is Jack Pickles further down the grid in number 14, and boat number 9, Harvey Smith, as they have a scrap for the lower positions. But this battle for second with Ben Jelf, and that's better, that's job done this time, isn't it, for Ben Jelf? Gets through on the inside of Jess Beaumont. She's not going to be happy with that one. She would have left the gap, and Jelf see the opportunity then just to squeeze through. But Thomas Mantrip has not put a foot wrong really in this race and takes the checkered flag. A win then for him. Ben Jelf is to collect second position, and third, but only just, goes to Jess Beaumont. So Thomas Mantrip wins the day with 1,124 points, and a strong drive from Elliot Fleet second with 1,012 points. And newcomer Bexley Nunn finishes 9th overall.
A grumpy start and a perfect end to the weekend. A nice little win there in heat number 3. Enjoy it?
Yeah, that's good. Pleased with the result. Weekend started off not so well, but as the weekend went on, it got better.
So Thomas Mantrip finds himself at the top of the leaderboard after 2 rounds with 40 points, with Jess Beaumont tying with Elliot Fleet, both on 32 points. And Harvey Smith and Lucy Brewer tying for 7th position, both on 16 points.
On then to the Formula 4 final, where Mike Pillow's hoping he can find some way to outsmart young Ben Morse. Red lights on.
And they wait for the start, and the red lights go out, and Ben Morse gets a good start from that pole position, and Natalie Craddock back in the action, but a poor start from her. She's been dogged with electrical and starting problems all weekend, and they continue through to heat number 3. But Ben Morse works his way up to the first turn, and already it's almost job done then, isn't it, for him, as he leads the way first round the turn, and already Mike Pillow then seeing the lead beginning to disappear at this very, very early stage of the race. So we look back through the grid then and through the pack, and Rob Veers in boat number 18 just ahead of the pink boat of Matt Palfreyman, who was in 4th position. Then Sam Whittle and Natalie Craddock did get away at the end, but it's cost us so much time in this race of anything of a podium position is really out of the question. But she's going to have a go really at trying to get past Sam Whittle. As we look back then with the leader, Ben Morse in boat number 97. Clearly this time, and Mike Pillow seeming to be no threat at the moment. So 42, Mike Pillow round the right-hander as we ride on board with Matt Palfreyman. Now he's either getting married tomorrow or there's something on the boat, but it's actually tape. They hold the deformable pickles on with bolts, but sometimes they put securing tape on there just to make sure that these deformable front pointy bits at the front of the boats don't actually come off. And that's what you can see flapping around on this boat. Matt Palfreyman at the moment, the pink boat, multitasking actually this weekend, also as we will recall out in the Formula 2 class as well, as we ride on board with Natalie Craddock, as she's still chasing Sam Whittle at the moment as the race leader continues to lead out in front. Much easier, and you can see how much view there isn't from inside one of these cockpits. A very narrow field of vision there from the boat of the race leader Ben Morse. And we now look at newcomer number 18 Rob Veers, although he is actually from the F4 class, but he's in an F4S hull just to confuse things. But this boat here then of Mike Pillow is pretty much an F4S boat, and he's chasing the race leader Ben Morse, who's had a very successful time out in front all weekend. Cautiously then round the Archer's turn at the top, he won't want to be making any mistakes towards the closing stages of the race, round the right-hander and then down towards what they call the fairground turn. Natalie Craddock then, she'll be happy when this weekend is pretty much over. A miserable weekend for her. Although the weather's improved, her race position really hasn't. As Ben Morse then coming up for the final few corners now, and Ben Morse 97 using all the experience he's had from the first 2 to make it 3 out of 3 and takes the checkered flag. A good weekend of racing for Ben Morse. He lifts up the cover. He's got to be pleased with that result. So Ben Morse does win the day with a maximum of 1,200 points, with Mike Pillow second with 1,080 points, and Rob Veers a good solid drive, 972 points.
Ben, 3 out of 3. Poor old Mike's got worries now.
Yeah, obviously it's like a perfect weekend, country home club for your national. and get pole and 3 wins. You can't ask for anything more, I suppose. So look forward now to the next one.
Now, of course, the next race is Bodymoor, but after that, we're going to Chasewater. Now, you haven't been there before, have you?
No, never raced there. Obviously, I heard a lot of stories from my dad who used to race there.
Well, I bet Mike's been there because he's been racing for about 300 years, so he'll have you on there. He'll have experience on you.
We'll see. Mike would have raced the same time as my dad, so obviously, hopefully, my dad's got some instant tips that Mike will give himself, so we'll see.
So Ben Morse wins 2 rounds of the championship so far, giving him a maximum of 41 points, with Mike Pillow laying 2nd overall in the championship, 29 points, and Sam Whittle is 3rd with 27 points.
Well, it would appear there's no stopping Ben Morse when it comes to the Formula 4s. Make sure you join us after the break for our last 2 finals for the GT30s and the F2 Cats. Welcome back to Carr Mill Dam for the last of our 2 Powerboat GP finals. It's GT30s time, which means it's girl power.
The final race for them over the course of the weekend for round 2 at the Carr Mill National Championships for Powerboat GP. And Jess Stoneman gets a good lead and a good acceleration away from the start over Ben Jelf, and Charlotte Newton in 3rd position. Will Wood and Abby Brewer, of course, make up the rest of the pack as we go up towards the first turn. But Jess Stoneman, a good lead then from her already in the early stages of the race, pulling away from Ben Jelf in number 4. But I think Ben's going to have a bit of a handful in this race, because Charlotte Newton in number 27, right on the case, right on the money, and Ben Jelf is pretty much under threat from young Charlotte at the moment. So Jess Stoneman out in front. That's always a bit tricky when they go across their own wash away from the start. It becomes very rough, and earlier on in one of the earlier races we see Ben Jelf who took off. And, well, that's one person getting it all wrong, isn't it? That's Will Wood deciding to make up his own course. He's not happy with the one that they've pre-arranged, but Will Wood will be penalised 1 lap for that driver error. And, well, he was in last position anyway, so it's not really going to affect the overall results too much, but nevertheless a mistake from him. Now let's get back with the action, because this is still Ben Jelf in 2nd position, still ahead of Charlotte Newton. And Charlotte, with a very, very quick outfit underneath her belt there, she's more than capable of getting past Ben Jelf. But Ben Jelf, the experienced Ben Jelf, they've raced at junior level together, as Charlotte really taking a bit of a wide approach then towards the Archer's turn as they go round the turn. I think she was just trying to cut through on the inside, but it didn't work, and she wasn't really close enough that time, so she's still chasing hard. Look at that, it's a boat length between 2nd and 3rd positions, and Charlotte right through the spray again. She can't make her mind whether it's paying to go on the outside or the inside. At the moment she's now on the outside again as they approach the turn. Jelf will not give in on these corners. He likes to hug the boy turns a bit too much sometimes when he collides with them, but at the moment he's cleared them all, and Charlotte being forced wide once again, and that was a very, very wide turn. She's lost quite a lot of time there as we ride on board with the race leader Jess Stoneman, with a lot of distance now between herself and 2nd position, and that scrap that's happening just behind her. I think actually, if anything, they're holding each other up. But Jess Stoneman has all the clear water, all the advantages of being in the front. Will be enough really for Jess Stoneman to make this a very, very successful Carr Mill round. And it does, and she does win that 3rd and final heat with a good chase to 2nd, and Ben Jelf just gets it ahead of Charlotte Newton, who will take the 3rd position spot. Great driving from the GT30s. But it is Jess Stoneman who takes the day with 1,200 points, with Ben Jelf in 2nd with 1,080 points, and Abby Brewer in 3rd with 878 points.
Jess, another perfect start and a perfect end to a perfect day.
Well, sort of perfect. It's still raining.
Good luck when we next round. The battle's on. Girl power's on.
Me and Charlotte are going to be fighting definitely the next national.
So the GT30 Championship is very, very much alive, with Jess Stoneman right at the top of the leaderboard with 35 points, with Ben Jelf 34 points, Charlotte Newton 31 points in 3rd, and 4th Abby Brewer with 30 points.
Time for the final. As the rain returns to Carr Mill Dam, we rejoin our race commentator Jason Mantrip for the Formula 2 battle.
And they're away in an explosive start then from Colin Jelf, first away from the start grid as they run up towards the top turn. These 2.5 litre Optimax engines, the green engines now in Formula 2. They all charge up towards the first turn, but Balfour looks like he's got there first. And he looks like he arrived and got round the turn first. We'll have to check as we go back down the course and head up towards the Archer's turn. But Jelf is still there. He's in front still. And Balfour then backing off. Oh, and there's someone missing the turn boy there and through the middle, and that's on the approach to the left-hander. And it was Matt Palfreyman who decides to change the course. And he'll be penalised 1 lap, and that's a pity because that boat is really running on song. It's a new outfit for him for 2014, and the boat now, he's had more time in it since the first round, and well, it's a pity there that he has now got a 1 lap penalty. So hard work and effort from Matt Palfreyman there in 77 pretty much wasted, but it does mean then that Mark Williams, the sweat is off him really, and he moves into 3rd position at the moment. But Balfour in number 29, winner of the first 2, chasing hard Colin Jelf, and Jelf then proving that he did have the speed all along. I think it was really just about passing Paul Balfour in the first 2 heats, which he did not do. So he knew that he needed to, if he was going to win, he needed to get it nailed at the start, and that's what he done. So Jelf pulling away now from 2nd position. You can see there that Jelf has gone out of shot, and Paul Balfour really then just arriving at the right-hander. That's the gap between 1st and 2nd, with 49 Mark Williams, the newcomer in Formula 2 for this season, the rookie driver, but a previous 2 times world Formula 4 champion. He's laying in a good strong 3rd position for him at the moment. So we now look down at Paul Balfour in 2nd position as he approaches the left-hand turn. That's where Matt Palfreyman had the trouble, where he went through the 2 pinned markers. But Jelf pretty much in control of the race as we ride on board with him, and look how close he got to that right-hand turn there. There's a rock just the other side of that yellow marker buoy. He won't be wanting to get too close to that rock because that would cost him dearly. So Jelf out in front in the lead as he comes down the start-finish straight with all the clear water ahead of him. He can actually afford to back off slightly now because he's built up quite a gap between himself and 2nd position as we ride on board with Mark Williams, who's really taking to this new boat. It was last year's championship boat, really, driven by Malcolm Goodman last season, but this year in the very, very capable hands of Mark Williams as we ride on board then with Alan Marshall, who gets the start right this time. He started earlier in one of the previous heats, but Marshall driving with the gloves off in this 3rd and final heat as he's chasing, because he's pretty much in this race, he's chasing for that 3rd position with Mark Williams, and Mark just a little bit too far in front for it to be too much of a threat for him. So Steve Holtz as we ride on board briefly with him, but back to Mark Williams, and we look back to see where the next challenge is, but at the moment it's too far back for Mark Williams to get too worried. So Paul Balfour still in 2nd position, and look at the vibration on the steering cable as the cable runs from the steering arms through the steering wheel boss and then through onto the other side of the steering arms, and these are all power assisted steering systems in these Formula 2 catamarans. It makes it a little bit more easy to drive. But Colin Jelf then round the right-hander once again. He knows that this race, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, and he has made mistakes in the past, but he knows that if he doesn't make any, he will win this 3rd and final heat, which will be a great effort for him and the Jelf Racing team. He exits then the final corner. 1 more straight to go for Colin Jelf to see the checkered flag as he aims towards it now. There it is, and Colin Jelf does take the victory. So Paul Balfour wins the day then with 1,160 points, with Colin Jelf 2nd with 1,120 points, and Mark Williams 3rd, 972 points. So overall then, Colin Jelf and Paul Balfour both tie at the top with 38 points, with Mark Williams 3rd with 30 points, and Matt Palfreyman laying in a disappointing 6th position.
And that was a bit of a feisty first lap.
Yeah, obviously we knew we had to really squeeze Paul to manage to get past him, and I just had a little bit more better start that time, and I got round him, and luckily we had enough just to get him down this straight, and I could make the turn first for once.
Did discretion become the better part of valour after that little first lap tussle?
Yeah, it did. I mean, basically, I needed a second to win the weekend, so it's you're not going to push and bust.
Your best Formula 2 race this season, but the little story that maybe you might not have been completely on the correct course.
Oh, they put 2 turns there. Thought you could choose.
Ah,
no,
you did miss the boy, did you?
Yeah. This number 6, turn 3. I was just coming down, dropped it a bit early.
You've had mechanical problems so far this year, but that really seemed to be going well in that heat.
It's positive. We're moving forward. See what happens at the next race.
Well, that's all from Carr Mill Dam. Make sure you join us when Powerboat GP returns.